I want to talk to you a little bit about gun control. It is becoming, socialism is neat, and so is gun control. And they are selling it to, People Magazine just ran a promotion in People Magazine, call your congressman and tell them we need gun control. So they're going, after the low information, low constitution, knowledge voters, and it's going to become more and more popular. And the country is becoming more and more unsettled. How do you win this, Bobby?
Well, Glenn, look, obviously I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Let's review. Let's take head on their strongest. They call their strongest argument. Let's take what happened in Oregon. So after one of these shootings happens, the president didn't even wait. This time, talk about unseemly. He comes on live TV, politicizes this while we're still learning the details. He and Hillary Clinton are in a race to see who can take away our Second Amendment rights the fastest. Taking away the rights of law-abiding citizens won't stop these shootings, these massacres. Let's be honest. We've got a culture that is decaying. If you really want to understand why we have these mass shootings, you really want to understand, the knee-jerk liberal reaction is, we'll take away law-abiding people's guns. That'll solve this. That doesn't solve anything. We've got a culture where we no longer protect innocent human life. We've got a culture where if you watch movies, you listen to music, you turn on your TV set, you're just overwhelmed with the violence, the obscenity. It's so hard to raise kids. And I say this not just as a governor, but as a father. We've got a decaying culture. We've got millions of kids growing up in families where they don't have father figures. We got millions of young boys who aren't growing up learning about values or the value of human life or truth. We got the father, and this is going to be very politically incorrect. I know we've already said enough things. We're going to get a lot of objections to this, but let's go ahead and be honest. You got the father of the Oregon shooter lecturing us about gun control. Here's a guy that, by his own admission, doesn't know how many guns his son had, doesn't know where he got the guns, wasn't in his son's life. He was living with his mom, really couldn't tell us a whole lot about his son. Who's he to be lecturing us? But you're right, Glenn, the left, they don't want to talk about the moral decay. We need a spiritual revival in this country. If you want to understand why this is happening, it's the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. Our culture is getting more and more coarse, more and more violent. Our kids, we tell them they can't bully at school, and then they come home and they play these video games with violent, graphic depictions of rape, murders, killings. And then we wonder, and too often it's a troubled young man that commits one of these shootings. The answer is not gun control. The answer, look, if somebody's going to break the law to use a gun, they'll break the law to get a gun. Let's be honest about this. This is just the left trying to take away more of our rights. This is the left. They already don't like our First Amendment religious liberty rights. They don't like our Second Amendment rights. Part of this, I think a lot on the left, they live in a world that's very different from us. A lot of them, not only are they not believers, they don't know folks that are believers. Not only do they not have guns, they don't know people that have guns. They look at people. The earlier conversation we were having about our guns, they listen to that, they're horrified.
Yeah.
They think that's barbaric.
Yeah.
They think that's last century. They don't understand.
Same thing with spirituality.
Oh, absolutely.
They really, and it's a progressive trademark, they look down on people that are different than them. They don't understand them. They don't really want to understand them. They are beneath them.
That's right.
We are Neanderthals for believing in God. We're Neanderthals for believing in the power of protecting our own self with a handgun or even just to have a gun to go shoot and have sport with. We're Neanderthals. And
remember, the president told us, he was caught on video, on audio recording saying we cling to our guns and our religion as if that was an insult.
Yes.
I don't take that as an insult. I got plenty of religion, plenty of guns in Louisiana. We're proud of that. My little boys, they go duck hunting. We've taught them gun safety. They know how to, they're very responsible around guns. They always know that treat them like they're loaded. They don't point them at people. I trust them with guns because we've raised them right. They're not scared of them, and they know they're not toys. Now, that statement, I'm sure we just offended a whole lot of liberals out there who think that's child abuse. I can't believe you let your child, shoot a gun or hold a gun.
It's great fun for the family.
Absolutely. And so I think you're right that, and they preach tolerance. They're tolerant of everybody except those that disagree with them. If you happen to be a conservative, they have no tolerance for us. They say they're tolerant. They really aren't.
So how do you change that, Bobby? We're entering a dangerous time in human history.
Well, look, part of it, I want to be elected president. I'm running to be president. That's not enough. We need a cultural change. We need a spiritual revival in this country. And that's what I mean when we fight for things like religious liberty. We have to not only appeal to people of faith, people also who aren't believers. We need to appeal to them and say, in America, we have the right to live our lives 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, according to our beliefs. Whether you believe what I believe or not, whether you're a Christian or not, you should fight for my right to live my life that way.
I have this on set. This is my copy of it. I want to give you this before you leave. Called The Great Partnership, Science, Religion, and the Search for Meaning by Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. Have you read this?
I'm not yet.
He's brilliant, and he's making the case. Religious people, you have to start speaking to the scientists and the atheists because we're about to lose all of it, and we have much more in common. And it's a fantastic plea to people who walk a different life to say, look, there are a few things that we have to agree on. And we do. We just say, oh, well, you're a scientist, and so you are a God hater. Or scientists say, oh, well, you just ignore science because, you believe in religion. No.
That's right.
No, that's not the way it is.
Well, and look, let's give the president a very backhanded compliment. One of the things he understood, because you can undo tax rates and EPA regulations, we can undo that. He's fought very hard to change the idea of America.
Yes.
Sure has.
Fundamental transformation.
That's right. He's been a lot more successful than I would have thought in a short period of time. Oh. He gets how much harder that is to turn back. And we've talked a little bit about, turning the American dream into the European nightmare, making it all about government dependence. He and Hillary both have tried to redefine the idea of religious liberty to be a couple of hours a week in church as opposed to 24/7. Mm-hmm. You look at their assault on our gun rights every chance they get. This is an informed, it's a deliberate attempt to change the idea of America. Let's not be naive about what's at stake here. I used to say he was the worst president since Jimmy Carter, but that's unfair to Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy Carter was incompetent, but he believed in American exceptionalism. I don't believe.
I think he's Woodrow Wilson. He is Woodrow Wilson. He is the bookend of the progressive era.
That's right.
Woodrow Wilson was really the beginning and a nightmare, and believed in the same America that in many ways that Barack Obama believes in. Now we've seen 100 years. This isn't Barack Obama that has done this. This is 100 years of progressivism, and Barack Obama was the one to finish it off.
You're right, and we were talking about this earlier. There are progressives, obviously, in the Democratic Party. There are progressives in the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah.
There are folks in both parties that think they know how to live our lives better than us, that we shouldn't, if we have these freedoms, we will misuse them, so they've got to come tell us. That's how you get Common Core. That's how you get the micromanagement of the school lunches. That's how you get the federal government setting expulsion policies. That's how you get the federal government telling you what kind of insurance to buy, whether you can have guns, whether you can have religious liberty. That's how you have Michael Bloomberg saying you can't drink this many big gulps in the city of New York.
That's why you have Mike Huckabee and Jeb Bush. They are just as big of progressive as Hillary Clinton is in many, many ways. And I don't think people really, truly understand that. We've got to get away from these labels. The debate is coming up on CNBC. And the GOP is doing everything they can, as much as the DNC is too, to weed the field out to get their candidate. Do you believe that's a conspiracy theory, or do you believe that's true?
No, look, I think it's obvious that, as I'll speak to my party, it's clear to me the DNC is trying to protect Hillary. It's clear to me that on the Republican side, that folks in D.C., the folks in New York, and I think the national media folks, as well as the donors, absolutely, they're trying to clear the field. They don't like having more debates. They think democracy is messy. I've got news for them. The voters get to pick our nominee. They don't get to pick our nominee, and it always backfires. Every time they try this, it doesn't work. Look, Jeb Bush publicly said you got to be willing to lose the primary in order to win the general election. Let's translate that. What he's really saying, and what the establishment is trying to tell us, is hide your conservative beliefs. Get the left and the media to like you. If we do that again, we will lose again. We will deserve to lose again. We've tried that before, and it doesn't work. The American people don't want us to be a second Democratic Party, a cheaper version, a second liberal party. They want us to be authentic conservatives. They want us to not only repeal Obamacare and stop amnesty. They want us to stop funding Planned Parenthood. They want us to stop this bad Iran deal. They want folks who will fight for them. Again, another backhanded compliment to Pelosi and Reid and Obama. At least they fight for their beliefs.
Well,
our side just gives up the fight before it starts. I wish we had half the conviction, the backbone that the other side has.
If we did, we'd win.
Absolutely. We're right.
Half. Yeah, because we're right. If we had half their conviction, we would win.
But how do you get people to understand that this is the time where you can have a Bobby Jindal or a Ted Cruz? This is the time when you find the right guy to run in the general election. But so many people are all hung up in, well, I look at it's Jeb Bush and it's Donald Trump who are at the top of the polls, and I want somebody who can win. How do you convince them otherwise?
Well, two things. One, I'd say, look at what's happening in the early states. The voters that get to come out and hear the candidates, not just see them on TV, not just watch ads, but actually get to go kick the tires, ask the tough questions. That's the way it works in our democracy. The people get to vet the candidates. There's nothing between me. We do these town halls, but in 48 counties, we're going to all 99. We'll stay to the last person to ask their last question. That's why we're moving up in the polls in Iowa. Now, I know the National Party wants to ignore the early states. The last 50 years, every Republican nominee has won either Iowa or New Hampshire. You cannot ignore the early states. And I think you're exactly right. I think they would love, I think the RNC would love, I think the establishment would love a Jeb Bush, Donald Trump fight. They're not going to get it because the voters aren't going to select that. And so I think that voters need to take control back. These politicians work for us, not the other way around. That's why I think we got to fire everybody in D.C.
Dana Lash said last week she doesn't think that the GOP has she doesn't believe that they have a PR problem or a communication problem. She said they destroy the GOP every step of the way. They destroy their own policies and their own people every step of the way. I am happy in some ways that we haven't mentioned, and I'll bet you nobody, if it wasn't for this question, nobody here would have even thought this. You're running for president. You're the first Indian American to run for president. You would be the first Indian American president. We're called racist every step of the way, but we have, 2 Hispanics?
Yep,
a black, a woman, an Indian, and the DNC.
Sounds like I set up to a bad joke. I'm just waiting for you to say, walk into a bar.
The DNC has a bunch of old white people, and yet we're the racist. Does it come into play at all with you, the identity are you ever tempted to even say, hey, first Indian?
Absolutely not. Look, I'm tired of the hyphenated Americans. We're all Americans. And that's what makes this country great. I mean, I don't think anybody should be treated differently because of the color of their skin, their gender. One of the things I like about the conservative movement is we don't do that.
Yes.
We don't have these quotas, these set-asides. You don't get to start 10 yards ahead of anybody else. Everybody starts on a level playing field. That's the way it should be.
It's interesting, though, isn't it, that the media doesn't notice it? They never talk about it. Whereas with Barack Obama, everything was historic. Everything was unprecedented. Everything was the most amazing thing that's ever happened. But with you, with Ted Cruz, with Marco Rubio, with Carly Fiorina, with Ben Carson, they don't care. They don't even notice.
They just don't care.
Well, and one of the things I worry, stepping back from just this election cycle, the left is obsessed with identity politics. They're obsessed with multiculturalism. Here's what I really fear for our country. We've always been a melting pot. Now that is apparently culturally arrogant. The left says you're xenophobic if you say that. The new term of art is we're supposed to be a salad bowl, which I think that's the dumbest thing I've heard. I mean, the reality is assimilation, integration is so important to the American success story. My parents came here 45 years ago. They came here, they wanted to be Americans. If they didn't want that, they wouldn't have come. And so why is it wrong to say, if you want to come to our country, come to be an American and assimilate? If you don't assimilate, if you don't integrate, that's not immigration. That's an invasion. Now, when you say that, the left goes crazy. I said that Hillary Clinton went apoplectic. She sent Congressman Castro to Des Moines to criticize me for it. So I now like repeating it because when I know it drives her crazy, I like saying it over and over. It just encourages me to repeat it every chance I get. But this is a very important point because one of our strengths compared to Europe and other places has always been this idea we're a melting pot. And we're Americans, and that's, being American, it's as much of an idea when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this idea of freedom and opportunity. What our founding fathers got right, it wasn't about our genealogy. It wasn't about our ethnicity. It was this idea that limited government was going to protect but not create our God-given rights.
Bobby Jindal, if you like what you've heard, it's BobbyJindal.com. BobbyJindal.com, and he will be joining me on the TV show Monday and then a portion of Tuesday's show as well, so you don't want to miss that. Bobby, thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn. Great to be with you.